Today we're going to show you how to calibrate your SR-1 instrument. This instrument's been powered on for about 10 minutes and is at operational temperature. To begin, we're going to swap out the desiccant tube located on the back of your SR-1. We've already done this with a pre-packed column, but we'll show you how to do it here. Simply press on the quick connect coupler to remove the old desiccant tube. Make sure that all of your fittings are tight after replacing the column before moving on to the next step. With this completed, we're going to open the CO2 Automation software and we're going to start the pump. The pump will remain running when we close this software, which will allow us to do the calibration within the Lycor software package. Open up your Lycor software and you're going to connect to the Lycor detector by selecting COM port 4. Once the Lycor is connected, you'll notice a readout in your window here. Now that we're connected to the Lycor, we're going to go to View and open the calibration window. On the bottom left-hand side of this window, you'll notice a 0 H2O. We're going to go ahead and capture this new 0 point to calibrate for moisture. Once the Lycor has captured this calibration point, you should notice a readout close to 0 parts per trillion in the window. Now we're going to move on to the calibration curve for carbon dioxide. We're going to start with a 0% CO2 or a nitrogen matrix gas. You'll want to connect the regulator, either supplied with your instrument or purchased separately, to the proper canister. With the regulator attached, you're going to set the flow rate to about 2 liters per minute, and you're going to attach this to one of your jars. The red plug in the second port should be loosely sitting on top to allow gas to enter the jar and exit the second port. You're going to allow the calibration gas to fill the jar for about 15 to 20 seconds before moving on to the next step. Once your jar is filled with your calibration gas, you're going to shut off the regulator and quickly plug the jar using the 2 red plugs as part of your lid assembly. Now you're ready to connect the jar to your SR-1 instrument. As the calibration gas enters the SR-1 and flows over your detector, you should notice a change in readout in the Lycor software. We want to allow 15 to 20 seconds for this readout to stabilize before capturing our 0 point calibration. Once the reading is stabilized, you're going to click 0 CO2 and Yes to allow the Lycor software to capture this calibration point. Following capture, you should notice the CO2 reading somewhere near 0 on the Lycor software. With your first calibration point captured, you're going to disconnect the SR-1 from your jar and you're going to move on to the second point of your calibration. Disconnect your regulator from your canister and select your second canister. In this case today we're going to be using a 2% CO2 concentration. You can also use any other calibration gas that falls between the span that you're looking for. With the second canister attached, we're going to again set the regulator at about 2 liters per minute and connect that to your jar. Again, the red plug in the second port should not be pressed down. It should be loosely sitting within the second port to allow gas to escape from inside the jar. You're going to allow the calibration gas to flow into the jar again for about 15 to 20 seconds. Shut off the regulator and quickly cap your jar with using the red plugs. Again, now you're ready to connect this jar to the SR-1 instrument. You'll begin to notice the CO2 reading output change as the calibration gas reaches the detector. Again, we want to allow this to stabilize before capturing this middle point. To capture this middle point, we're going to use the calibration window and we're going to click on the tab called Span. You're going to enter the actual concentration of your calibration gas in parts per million. Since this is a 2% calibration gas, we're going to use 20,000 part per million CO2 and click Span CO2. Once the Licor software has captured this middle point, you should notice the CO2 reading come back very close to your calibration gas concentration. With this middle point captured, you're going to want to disconnect the jar again from your SR-1 and remove the canister from the regulator to move on to your third calibration gas. The third calibration gas today is a 15% CO2 with a nitrogen matrix. Again, you're going to connect that canister to your regulator and set the flow rate at about 2 liters per minute before connecting to your jar. It's important to note that following calibration, you can check the accuracy of your calibration by using any of the calibration gases across your span. You follow the same procedure and you can look at the readout within your Licor software or within the CO2 Automation software itself. If these are not falling where they are expected, we recommend recalibrating. Again, we're going to allow the gas to enter the jar for about 15 to 20 seconds. Shut the regulator off and quickly cap the jar. Connect this to your SR-1 instrument and allow the gas to enter into the detector. It's not uncommon for the readout of your CO2 to be very different from the calibration gas, especially the first time you calibrate. Again, what we're looking for is for the readout to stabilize before capturing this new CO2 point. Under the calibration window, we see a tab for Span 2. You'll want to go ahead and click this tab and enter the concentration again in parts per million of this calibration gas. Once the readout is stabilized, you'll click Span CO2 and the Licor will capture the top point of your curve. This is the entire process for calibrating your SR-1. We thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please contact us at Soil Health Innovations or visit our website, soilhealthinnovations.com. You're now ready to begin running samples. Thank you again.